initially, Shane, what was the motivation? Why did you guys hire ISAs to begin with?
Well, I walked in the door, and obviously I'm a cold caller. That's what I do. And so I start slamming the phones, making appointments. And as that begins to grow in the first couple of months, the appointments begin to grow. My boss is very smart, very directed person who said, how do we get more? And I said, well, I can only do X. Well, how do we multiply X times? And I said, humans.
That's a problem every agent has. You've got to put in the work, and that's really hard to do. We get busy, and that's the first thing we don't do. So Shane, inflection point, you were trending towards 2 times ROI with you burned out, barely worth the squeeze. What were the results once you guys made that change?
We finished 2025 with 42.5 times ROI. We do not make qualified appointments. We make quality appointments.
All right, folks, we're back, and I got a great one for you today. Returning guest. I think this is going to be a new record, Shane. I don't think anyone's ever been on this show 3 times.
Oh my!
It's a three-peat for you. It's been a while. It's been a year. You've been working more than a year and a half almost. So it's been time. But here to talk about it for the 3rd time on the progress he's made with a really, really large ISA team for a very large agent team, right? Is you got Shane Johnson. So for the people that don't know Shane, give us the 30-second intro in case anybody missed the other 2 times he's been on the show. Who is Shane? What do you do? And tell us about your team.
Who is Shane? So I've been in sales for 25 plus years. I'm knocking on 30 years now. At some level, I have done all of my own prospecting. So I very much believe in pipeline, building pipelines, pipeline management. I've done it here in real estate on and off. So I did take a 3-year break. I did it in the car industry, started out in insurance. So, the walk in the door, write 200 names down and go. And that type of thing. But so mainly my skill set is in leading, developing, processing, creating leads. Got to fill the pipeline. How do you fill the pipipeline?
And you've done it in different industries now, not just real estate, right?
I've done insurance, cars, in real estate. I've even sold suits in the mall. So, and 80% of my clients over about a 3-year period in selling suits was were people coming to see me, were appointments. They were not walk-ins through the mall. 20% or so were, but I learned early on, you kill what you eat, or you eat what you kill. There you go. Gotcha. And so I am big on making sure that I'm the one developing the leads.
Got it. So, you're the leads guy. You're the leads guy.
I am the pipeline developer. I will develop the pipeline and get them to appointments, and it's a process. So I joined Pepin Realty over 18 months ago, October-ish, I guess, of 2024. I got they had a little bit of they had the idea of a leads department. Had some leads, what they called leads managers in, but very small numbers. Team was smaller back then, and so I was just tasked with, hey, if we're going to grow, we need more leads. We need to process more of the leads that we take in, convert them to appointments, and the directive, frankly, from my direct boss, Michael, the COO, was I want to move from a model of handing out leads. Every brokerage does that. We want to hand out direct appointments.
Yeah. And that's a big difference. That's
massive shift.
Yeah, because you're handing off qualified opportunities. People that are responsive, that want to talk to an agent. Because you're right. Every brokerage, under the sun has some kind of lead program, right? But the difference is massive. Like, you've got a qualified opportunity that's ready to go versus here's a lead.
Well, that's one of the big shifts, though, in terminology, though, that I think is very important and what I've built in, and a foundational philosophy I very much believe in. We do not make qualified appointments. We make quality appointments. There's a massive difference. I mean, we only have 4 factors that qualify as an appointment: specific time, specific date, specific location, and the decision makers are present.
Got it.
And the analogy I use, I come from the baseball background. The analogy I use is I'm not picking the team you're playing against. I'm not picking the pitcher that's on the mound. I'm getting you the at bat.
Got it. Got it.
You
100%.
got to be a salesperson. You got to sell.
Yeah, but but half the battle is, getting in front of the decision maker, right? In the
Correct.
right
Correct.
situation, in the right
Yeah.
situation. Because
Yeah.
agents spend most of their time trying to get to the decision maker, trying to get their attention, trying to have a good
Right.
conversation, trying to have a good connection, and then trying to get in front of them, and then
Well,
it's showtime, right? You got to bring out those sales skills, presentation skills. But
right.
and we've talked about this a lot, Shane. I would argue most agents don't fail at the listing presentation. I would make that argument, and
Yeah.
that's a hill I would die on is
I
that
would
they
start
usually
to
talk
argue with
to
you
enough
on that.
sellers. Yeah, 100%. It's that's usually again, there's always cases, but that's
Sure.
usually not where the majority of them fail.
Yeah.
That they don't have a strong enough presentation. That's always going to be an issue for sure.
Right.
They
Right.
just don't
Right.
get to that level. They don't have enough appointments. They'd
Right.
figure out the presentation issues
Well,
if
and
you get enough reps in there. You'd probably figure it out, right? It's just they don't talk to enough sellers. They just don't get in front of
that's
enough of
exactly.
them.
It's conversations. There's only three things
Yeah,
in selling ever. I will die on this hill. You have to three behaviors that you have to be doing over 95% of your life as a seller. You're prospecting, you're presenting, and you're closing. Prospecting, presenting, closing. Prospecting, presenting, closing. So obviously, yes, the front edge, the front of the funnel is the prospecting. You better be prospecting. You better
yeah,
be prospecting every day, all day. And the hardest thing to do, and when I talk to agents about it, is the hardest thing to do is when you're successful at prospecting, because you'll get good at presenting and then you'll forget to prospect again. And so you go through these
100%.
vicious cycles, right? So prospecting has to be built into the everyday part of your life.
I love that, and I love how Pepin has really taken that problem because that's a problem every agent has. I don't care whether you
Yeah.
work your own personal database, you're doing
Right.
cold calling, you're doing internet leads. You've got to put in the work, and that's really hard to do. We get busy, and that's the
Yep.
first thing we don't do.
Yep.
Gotta respond to that email. Got to put out that fire. I got to turn that inspection. There's
Yep.
always something, right, Shane? There's always something when you're busy that you put
Yep.
it off or you do less of it. And Pepin
Yep.
has said, we're gonna do a good chunk of that work for you. Like that's
Yep.
part of
We're
the
gonna do it
value
up front. Yep.
proposition of the team,
Yep.
right? I love that.
And the big piece too is, and try to teach this, every single transaction, every single one started with a conversation.
Yeah,
You've got to get good at the conversations. Have more conversations. And how do you do that? I mean, you can pay for leads, and every new agent, here's the thing. In all prospecting, you're exchanging one of two things. You're either paying with money and then you'll get more time, or you're spending more time because you don't have any money, right? So
100%.
it's money or time. That's the only exchange there is in prospecting, money or time. If you have money, throw money at it. I can show you. I mean, I got the metrics. We pay for lead sources. We have 14 paid lead sources currently. That's grown since I've arrived, but again, you got to prove an ROI. Money's not unlimited. You got to have a good return on investment, right? But if you don't have money, you better spend the time. When I started, and again, I had that background of insurance and other things, understood pipeline management. But when I started in real estate, I was in my early 40s with two babies and a wife at home.
Right.
So, I mean, there's mouths to feed, there's bills to
Yeah.
pay. And so I was making 500 calls a day, 5 days a week, and then door knocking on Saturdays and Sundays just to
Ah,
continue to have the conversations.
pipeline. Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Building it every day. Building it every day.
And still to this day, I make over 100 calls a day myself just to keep that muscle going,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you got to
100%.
fill that pipeline.
And throughout, and we've been working with you guys, for over a year now,
Yeah.
at kind of the end of
November
2024.
2024.
Just as you were getting started, and to give people a little bit of a refresher, back then, because I want to talk about how that process has changed, right? Because
Sure.
there were certain objectives at the beginning,
Yep.
objectives evolve, the strategy changes, but initially, Shane, what
Yep.
was the motivation? Was there a particular scenario you needed some help with, a certain list,
Well,
why did you guys hire ISAs to begin with?
well, I walked in the door, and obviously I'm a cold caller. I mean, that's what I do. So I start slamming the phones, making appointments, and as that begins to grow in the first couple of months, the appointments begin to grow. My boss is very smart, very, very directed person who said, how do we grow? How do we get more? And I said, well, I can only do X, And he said, well, how do we multiply X times? And I said, humans, other callers, ISA department, I'm the leads department, but let's and he said we've been thinking about ISAs. I have a connection with a company called Power ISA. I don't know if they've done something or he had just investigated in the past or whatever, but he had y'all's name. I didn't. I didn't
He heard
find
of it.
you. Yeah,
Love it.
he knew y'all. So we got connected. I hired my first ISA. Still actually talk to him regularly, George. Um, and so we started with George, but I had a deep flawed understanding early of how to utilize ISAs for us. And I want to be
Gotcha.
very cautious of that
Gotcha.
because we aren't a single agent just trying to get somebody to get us opportunities to talk to somebody,
Yeah.
right? We're doing this other thing where so I thought, hey, let's just I mean, George was making, 300 to 400 phone calls a day, 5 days a week.
Wow.
So we just began there, and it's like, well, he was having some success, but I was still carrying the bulk of the department because I was handling all the paid lead sources,
Got it.
and George was doing all the cold calling.
Got it.
So
Got it.
I was generating 40 appointments a week. He was generating two.
Mm. Big
Well,
difference there. Big
if you want to
difference there.
get two, if you want to multiply two, you got to hire another person. So we hired somebody else. We got four. Then we hired somebody else, and we got, there was some training involved. All of a sudden, I was able, and so then, we hired two. We were at 4 to 5 appointments a week. And then we hired a third person who got us to around 8 appointments a week.
Got it. Got
And
it.
I'm still carrying 40 to 50 appointments a week myself.
Wow.
So
Wow.
as we begin to scale, yeah. So that's how we started
I gotcha.
in a
Because that you're
traditional cold calling format.
yeah, the thesis was you're going to focus on the most expensive leads, the highest converting opportunities. Like Shane
Yep.
is like number one. He's our best closer, our best appointment setter. Let's go with
Yep.
that. And then the
Yep.
stuff you don't have time to do,
Yep.
you're gonna build an ISA team around that, which is like the
Yep.
cold prospecting. Hey, that's lower converting. It just
Right.
it's a bigger grind.
Yep.
It converts less. Although I'm pretty sure you probably would rock it there too, but you just didn't
Yeah.
have the time for it, right? It took more time
Right.
to get
Yeah.
those like time per appointment, which is way higher on the cold calling. So you handed
Right.
that off and you focused on the highest value, highest
Right.
converting lead sources.
Right.
But you were it. Like you were 90%, 80% of that team
Yeah.
was you, even
Yeah.
though there were 4 or 5 people at that point.
Yeah, and I have a sign above my desk here that says, where are we losing the leads? Where are we losing them? Where are the holes in the ship? And so, we get into February-ish, and I think at that point we have 5 or 6 ISAs. We just kept adding.
Yeah.
And it was the ROI was there. It was always, 2 times ROI, make sure if, whatever it is, if this thing's costing us 4 grand a month, we need to be making 8 grand a month,
Yeah.
whatever it was. And that's close to the early numbers, but and everything was fine. So and my bosses definitely had they gave me a runway. They had
Yeah.
patience.
Yeah.
They weren't the Florida Gators cutting the coach after he doesn't have a winning season the first year.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
let the guy process. So we were progressing. But again, I just started doing some real because we're a data company. Our
Yeah.
broker has an MBA from Wharton School of Business, so everything's numbers and
Oh, wow.
crunching. And I say it this way: we don't count dollars and minutes. We count pennies and seconds here.
Yeah.
And so we drill it down to the lowest common denominator, and we work on our conversion rates, everything. We work on every stage of the funnel. And
Love it.
so I got to, I guess, February. I was starting to burn out, but I was
Mhm.
also starting to really because I was also managing. So you hired all these people, somebody's got to manage them.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Train. You guys have wonderful
Feedback.
coaches, but then your coaches want feedback, and so I'm suddenly meeting. I go from 3 meetings a week with leadership to 12 meetings a week. Because I'm trying to manage this beast, and then further and further behind the so probably one of the things you'd like me to talk about. I did have a kind of inflection point or breaking
Yeah.
point.
I think that's a key thing because the before and after is pretty dramatic, right? So
Yes.
so
Yeah.
so you have this initial thesis, they're focused on the cold calling,
And we were
ROI is there,
grinding, brother.
but
We're
it's a lot of
grinding.
work, right? It's a
Yeah.
lot of work to get a relatively small payout. Like what was the aha moment? What was the like, hey, you know what? Maybe this isn't working kind of situation.
Well, so I had a Friday. I think I've told you this story directly, but I had a Friday where I left out of here thinking, okay, I gotta break it to my bosses and I gotta figure out how to unwind this thing.
Gotcha.
We're basically Monday, we're shutting down the ISA department. That was the God's honest truth walking out the door. Dinner with my
Got it.
wife that night. You seem heavy. I gotta fire six people and break. I gotta shut down the ISA department because I can't run it this way.
Yeah, it's too much work. Too much work
I've
for
been
too little.
married
Too
30.
much. The juice
Yeah,
isn't worth the squeeze. The
the
juice
juice
isn't worth
is
the squeeze.
not worth the squeeze at that
Yeah,
point. So,
yeah,
you know, as my wife often does in my life, we've been married 30 plus years. She said, you're so big in Chat GPT. Why, let's enjoy dinner. Why don't you consider Saturday, Sunday work days? Why don't you go to your, I have a home office, go to your office, and why don't you ask ChatGPT what you should do? You
yeah.
preach it to me all the
And
time.
you,
I
you know,
said, that's,
that's worth the whole other session because the way you've implemented ChatGPT, like AI,
oh,
in
it,
general,
it runs my life. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, people are missing a little bit of context there. You
yeah.
use it extensively,
Yeah, and I
and
already was at that point. Yeah,
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 already, right? Use it,
yeah,
I don't people understand, because you use it not just for like marketing and like you bounce ideas and projects and like
oh,
strategies off of it.
yeah,
It's wild. I think that's worth a whole other session in and of
yeah.
itself, how
I
you've
could,
implemented
yeah.
ChatGPT,
I
ChatGPT
could
into your
not
business.
do it what I do at the scale I do it without AI. Several platforms. ChatGPT is the managing platform for all
Yeah,
my AI.
it's
But
wild.
so yeah, and it was just coming from me encouraging her to use ChatGPT as a fourth grade teacher. Well, why don't you ask ChatGPT this? And so she said, why don't you ask ChatGPT what you should do? I said, that's great. So love her to death and owe her everything. So I walked in Saturday morning to my office and just I literally my opening prompt. I still have it. Hey, I am underwater, struggling, drowning. Here's what I need. I mean, I
That's
talk to
wild.
it like it's my personal assistant. I call it Charlie now. Um, but I just said, Charlie, let me give you context. Wait for me to say done, and then let's have a conversation. Let's process this. So I poured out my heart for it was a good hour
Wow.
of just
Wow.
laying in context.
Okay.
Starting with day one, starting with my history. I mean, I already kind of knew I knew how to do the custom side. But anyway, long story short, I spent an entire 8 hours that day, 8 hours the next day with ChatGPT. And through that process, I don't want to say ChatGPT decided, but again, I through guidance and us working together, and I believe in a 20-60-20 approach to AI, which is 20% input, 60% AI does the work, and then 20% editing
Yeah.
and correction,
100%.
refinement. So I
Refinement.
did that. And again, by middle of the afternoon on Saturday, I had a revelation. I should not be building this kind of in the way I'm not blaming you guys. Obviously, we've had this conversation, but in how, because I didn't know anything about an ISA department. So I was going a lot off of my first coach's
Yeah.
leadership. And the revelation was I need to be build an ISA department on my inbound first.
Got it. The
And
highest
then what
value,
highest value, hey, they
yeah,
can do
highest
this. Let's
conversion.
fit. But again, those systems didn't exist because everybody's used to making an ISA cold call expireds, right?
Yeah.
So how do I put an ISA on GLS? How do I put an ISA on the old nurtured Zillow leads? At the same time we're going through this, I'm also responsible for onboarding the company as a Zillow preferred at that time Zillow Flex
All at
team.
the same time. All at the
This is,
same time,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, yeah.
Why not?
Everything's happening at the same time. I can't
Yeah.
take on one project at once, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I emerged that Monday morning with a brand new focus plan, which was I'm going to reduce the team down to, I'm going to pick two. I already had in mind who those two were going to be. And then we are going to slowly and methodically build this team on inbound and highest conversion metrics first, and then sprinkle in on the back end getting the cold call going again, right?
Got
We
it.
don't ever want to lose that. Our broker built our business on expired, so that's always going to be a core part of our DNA.
Yeah.
But right now, I can't keep wasting money on at that time, 8 paid lead sources.
Yeah.
And so let's get those. So that's what we did. We started.
And you're adding a massive one. You were like in the process of getting like one of the most
Oh yeah, and I'm
valuable
adding Zillow
resources
at the
out
time,
there.
which is a
Yeah, at
direct
the same
connect,
time.
but also where our metrics have really changed is because we now have the ISA department built in such a way that so we only want our agents staying in on Zillow well at all times, but we only want them staying in front of the 20th most hot active clients at a time. Everyone else, they know that they can give back to us. We have a attribution system. They give back to us, and we'll nurture them for them. And if we pop them, we'll give them back to them as
Got
an
it.
appointment. So now for our agents, they can honestly stay in front of the 20 most active buyers, sellers at a time. And
Gotcha. Gotcha.
really,
Gotcha.
and so it changes the conversion metrics, if you can imagine, the closing rates
100%.
change. And
100%.
if they
They,
feel
they
like,
they have
hey,
like a
this
lead
person,
budget. They
yeah,
they need to they have to do a great job with 20 people instead of doing
yeah,
like a half-ass job with 50 people
yeah,
or 100 people, right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because the truth of the matter, if you have 100 people in your CRM, you're not effectively serving
No.
80 of them.
Yeah,
You know,
probably.
So anyway, to the point of this is I started building from that Monday with two
Yeah.
ISAs.
Yeah.
So here we are now.
You,
We're at
you, you
10.
change the
One of
thesis. Like, you know
yeah,
what? Let's put it on our highest converting lead source, like
yeah,
the bulk of the where you were getting your results, right?
yeah.
Shifting there. That's a risk though, right? It seems
Oh,
obvious maybe now, but in the
yeah.
moment, like that's where you guys make your money. That is the, like your most expensive leads, your most expensive lead sources. How did you manage that? How did you manage that risk? That was a risky decision, right?
Well, it's training and it's trust. I mean, I had built trust with two very I'd gotten the pick from 6 or 8,
Yeah.
at the time, but Elia is still with me, and she is my ISA team leader now.
Okay.
Um, and then Leo, I identified early, probably by the time I got back to 4. So Elia, Leo, and I can't remember the other two. They have left, not because I got rid of them, but as we had 4, I identified, I just started scaling I said, I'm going to build this thing to whatever. So I want to go ahead and introduce something early rather than later. And that was a metrics person.
Got it.
So Leo, one of the two I kept, is very good. He happened to have a secret weapon, a secret skill set. He is very good at Excel. Very,
There you go.
very good.
Wow.
And I just had a random conversation with him one day, and I said, sharing my screen with something. And I said, I can't stand it when Excel does that. And he popped out 3 or 4 fixes real quick. And I said, do you know Excel? He said, yeah, I have like 4 certifications in
Oh wow.
Excel.
That's
So I
not
said,
common. Let me just say that. That's not a
oh, I
common
said,
occurrence.
yeah. So lucky, as I always say, give luck its due where it's due, right? And so I have
Yeah.
quickly moved him. So when we had 4, I moved 3. 3 stayed, as direct ISAs, but I moved Leo into a VA role to begin to
Gotcha.
drive the metrics. To begin to
Mm,
then we almost within the first 2 months of this reboot, we had an accountability system built where we could
nice.
track metrics to the penny, like I said, like the intention always. That allowed us to focus on those inbound lead sources and say, okay, currently GLS is converting at 6%. Now we have goals month over month to get to increase by at least 1 percentage point conversion every month for the next 5 months.
Wow.
And boom, then we were able to more focus on, again, using ChatGPT. Here's where I'm at. I'm at 4% on GLS. What are some strategies? Let's work together. Let's figure out how I can get this 2% in the next 2 months. And
Gotcha. Gotcha.
we
Gotcha.
began to build and
I love it.
identify, well, I need a fifth, I need a sixth, I need
I
a
got you.
seventh.
But as you were growing this time, Shane, you had those since you had those really high standards in place. As you
Mhm.
scaled, things didn't come crashing down. You
No, no,
didn't
no.
scale up a flawed system, right? You
Nope.
didn't scale up an inefficient system. You scaled up a high performing,
Yeah.
like metrics based system, right?
Well, that's it. Again, at the fourth ISA, I identified, and not that I'm the most brilliant person in the room, but sometimes I have a gift of sometimes being able to see around corners. And
Right.
so I identified, I don't know, maybe more out of fear than anything else. And some of my Marine background training comes in, but I said, if I go to 10, how will I track this?
Yeah.
I don't have the system. I'm a systems engineer. That's my skill set, system. If I get to 10, or if I get to 8, how am I going to track this? I said, well, maybe at number 4, I should start tracking now. And let's build from there. So we started the tracking really fast, on the
Right.
rebuild. It was 2 months in, we were at 4, and I now have a VA. I have 3 true ISAs and a VA now. that is running metrics for us. And Leo stays in that role to this day. His role is actually expanded. He's doing incredible things. There's insights that we never could envision happening that we have because he's such a nerd with it. I love him to death because
That's cool.
I adopt over half my brilliant ideas are his because I've adopted his ideas. So
Cool. I love it.
he does an amazing job with us. So I'm really proud of him, an really incredible asset. So much so that he's birthed another VA for metrics.
Gotcha.
So
There's
he's
there's
got
lots to do. Yeah,
yeah,
you guys have a lot of different, different lead sources.
right,
You got, I mean, I don't know what the numbers are, but you've got to be spending thousands or tens of thousands of dollars every month on lead generation. It
right,
matters to collect that data. It matters to have really good data.
right,
There's no such thing as a universal, if you have 14 paid lead sources, there's no such thing as a universal dashboard that just makes itself, right?
right.
You gotta drill
Yeah.
down and you gotta make it, right? You gotta
Everybody's
get that
different. Yeah.
information.
Dave Ramsey behaves a certain way, and you got to behave a certain way with them, and that's radically different than how Zillow behaves.
Yeah.
And the thing is, and I know this frustrated. I hear it from agents and the masterminds I'm with all the time, but I understand. Oh, I hate Zillow because listen, I don't care. They're a partner. We're playing ball in their field. We're happy to take their money from them. They're happy to take our money because we're happy to take their money, and our agents love it because the conversion rates are so high. And yes, you're giving up 40%. Like everybody, I just heard a universal groan on the video of everybody watching this, going, "Can't imagine giving up 40% of your revenue, or your commission, right, or whatever." But the reality is, they're now 32% of our business
Yeah. Holy cow. And Shane,
and
I think
generating hundreds of thousands of dollars a month.
yeah, I would qualify that saying if you're gonna do a business as a Zillow Flex team, number one, you got to qualify. You got to be a team that Zillow even would consider that. Number one.
All right, yeah,
Number two,
we had to try out for that.
yeah, you have to be a team that drives operational excellence. Because
Correct.
if you are inefficient and you don't know your numbers, you have bad splits, you're
Yep.
overspending on admin, on marketing, on ISA. You're
Yep.
not going to make any money with Zillow Flex. You're going to be in the red very easily be in the
Very
red with Zillow
quickly.
Flex.
Yeah.
You got to know your numbers. You got to know your conversion rate. You got to make sure you're making money on those deals
Yep.
because, I mean, they're the best leads known to man. I mean, I know
Yep.
I measured this. It's not close, right? The conversion rate on Zillow, on a
We converted
Zillow
16%.
Premier. Yes,
Yeah,
that's
I don't
insane.
want to hear
So
it. Yeah.
so 16% lead to closing, right? Like lead, you're not talking about appointments. You're talking about like leads to close deals.
Yeah. Leads to close deals were at 16%. So yeah.
Yeah, that's nuts, right?
Good
That's
night.
that's a
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Good night,
That's like
Ivory. We're not doing that.
that's like 10 times better than like a regular Google pay per click ad, right?
Yeah.
Pay per click lead. That's 10 times better. So
Yeah.
I totally understand people that hate Zillow, but I like numbers, right? Like and
Yeah.
numbers say these are the best leads known to man. You just gotta know your numbers. You gotta know the conversion rate. Gotta have a handle on your expenses because you
Yeah.
can easily be in the red if you're
These
not careful. You
these are just
overspend and you're
tools.
not doing it.
They're just tools. They're just resources. They're just partners.
100%.
And they don't run our business, but we know how to play the game. I know how to play the game with whoever. Dave Ramsey's more of a pain than Zillow ever hoped to be. But in 2024, the company converted, I think, 4 Dave Ramsey's.
Oh, wow.
We have converted 26 last year.
Wow. There
We're
you
on
go.
set to do
Big
over
difference.
50 this year
Wow.
because we just figured out, we dialed in with them and said, so my job now is just to have those higher level conversations and call Dave Ramsey crew and go, hey, how do we get more leads? What do you want?
Yeah.
What's your system? What game you playing? Well, we got that app and we know it's clunky, but we need you to drive all of your behavior through the app. Man,
Mhm.
that was a game changer. As soon as I drove our entire team, ISA, everything into the app, and listen, man, we went from 5 leads a week to 40 leads a week.
Wow. Okay, that
Ju-
that's real money.
Guess
That's a big
what? We're
difference.
converting,
Yeah.
and it's like, here you go, guys. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, you
So
just do that with each lead source.
as a lead manager, like you have the time, the resources, like the expertise to be able to like custom make a system for each one of these lead sources because it'd be yeah, it's great to say 14 paid lead sources, but are you
Yeah.
making money from 14 paid lead sources, right? Do you have you
Yeah.
figured out how to make money from 14
We
different
have,
paid lead
and
sources?
that's because yes. Now keep in mind, I was in the weeds, in the ditch. I was on the battlefield for the first 6 to 9 months of this.
Wow. You're in the
But
trench,
then
in the trench,
as I
100%.
in the trench, as I began to scale, I put in the layers of leadership and management that I needed to scale and to put me in the position
Yeah.
where now I can spend an hour on the phone with Gustavo
Yeah.
or on a video and not, be pulling my hair out going, I've got 75
Leads
more people.
aren't going unresponded, right? They're not, people aren't waiting for you to get back to them. The text messages aren't piling
To
up.
the point that now Ellie runs my entire lead distribution channel.
Wow.
So she's now directly in contact with the agents, making sure that the leads get distributed properly. And so I don't even have to do that part. I just oversee it. I just watch it and make sure, and she knows we have a great built relationship. I'd say the biggest thing I'd say is if you can identify an ISA that you can, I mean, listen, we're not going to visit Mexico anytime soon, and she's not coming to Florida anytime soon as far as families and all, but I really trust her with the systems. And so, she knows and I make myself available to her. I mean, there's Betsy, there's the broker, there's my direct boss, the COO, and then there's Ellie as far as my responsiveness
Wow.
to,
Wow.
if she sends me a message because she's so
Boom.
critical to keeping me out of the weeds. And so if
I
she
love it.
sends me a message, I'm responding to it immediately to help her move forward. I think it's just scaling at that level. And sometimes I'll say this, and maybe inappropriately for you, but you can edit this part out. Sometimes I hear on the calls with other agents or other brokers or who are using your ISAs, I think they don't scale to not size, they don't scale to trust fast enough.
Interesting. Okay, so unpack that. What do you mean by that? That sounds like an interesting one.
I figured out something. I
Yeah.
think I shared this with you last time about the fifth hire. I love Florencia to death. Oh, she's so special. So I had a direct conversation. She's whatever you guys call that role for her, but she's the one who basically I say I need a new ISA.
She jumps on it. Yeah.
She jumps on it. I told her about I was hiring the sixth one. I said I got to change for you. I'm tired of the interview process with you guys. I'm frustrated with it. I don't want you to give me somebody that got fired. But if you've got an ISA that was let go from a campaign because the campaign downsized or just stopped or whatever, but you had I'll just say it this way, that the biggest feedback you get is that ISA is a little bold or opinionated or arrogant. I want that ISA. She
That's
started
wild.
giving me those kind of, she's like, I don't know how you do it, but these guys drive me nuts. But we use those ISAs and here's why, because they have a skill set. And I'm not trying to manage the skill set anymore. I think that was a big shift for me. I just want closers. At the end of the day, if we're talking about salespeople, I want
Yeah,
closers. I don't care how arrogant they are. I just need people who know how to do some of the fundamentals that I don't have time to train for.
got it.
And then I'm going to trust them. And I have very direct conversations day one with them. I've been doing this 30 plus years. I have scaled multiple companies doing exactly what I do. So let me just be straight with you. You can day one, you can do it my way, or your choice is to do it your way. Now, what matters? You've only got 3 weeks to average 5 appointments a week.
Boom.
If you spend the first 2 weeks doing it your way, and then you don't get to five, I'm going to have that third week, that entering the third week conversation that says you're fired if you don't do 5 appointments this week. There's no exception. Well, now you've only got 1 week to figure out how to get five. And now you're asking me for help because now you're desperate. How about day one? You just do it my way, and we got 3 weeks to get to the five. And now I take responsibility for it with you. That humbles those arrogant guys really fast.
100%.
And now we don't fail to get to five by the end of 3 weeks.
I got you. So, and I think it's, let me add something in there. You might be taking some arrogant people, not easy to deal with people. You're plugging them into a system though, right?
Correct.
You're plugging talent into a system. And if
Right.
someone doesn't like it, doesn't want it, you're laying it out day one. Like, this is how things work here. This is how you can win. Up to you though, right?
Yeah.
Here's the standard. Here's the time frame. and
Yeah.
this is how you got to be on this. To be on this team, you got to meet this standard, and you have three
Correct.
weeks to do it. I like the immediacy of it. I like the directness of it, right?
No, you've
Like
only
this
got
is
3 weeks, so we put in
yeah,
some hard standards. You've only got 3 weeks.
100%, right? And
Yeah.
you either, surrender to the process
Yeah.
or you might want to do it on your own, but you're right there, you're separating the people that are cocky, arrogant, and not coachable. Like that for
Correct.
me, I'll take an arrogant guy any day of the week. But if
As
they're
long as
not
it's
willing to
coachable.
learn stuff, I
Yeah.
can't work with them. It's not going to work out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Don't make me spend 2 weeks or 3 weeks proving to you that I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. 100%. That's a
It ain't
great way
gonna-
to put it. That's
You
a
know,
great way to put it.
I don't have time for that, and you really don't either, because if you spend that time and invest that time proving to me that you know what you're doing, you're risking the fact that you're not going to get to five.
Yeah.
And I don't
If
know. So,
Yeah, if you use the tried and true method, the tried and true system, we know you can do it, right? Like,
and then we say if
what do
you
you want
get
to do?
to five and you're there and you're on the team and now we're at scale and we're working, if you have ideas, share. And they very quick. We also have an incredible team of culture. I know everybody talks about that, but we really, 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 really have a team culture. This team,
Love it.
we're at 10 now, and they help each other all the time. We meet regularly. The team lead, Ellie, puts them in a morning meeting for 15 minutes. If they're having issues, they bring it up. So we tell them, get to scale our way. You stay on the team, and now give me ideas. We'll use your ideas, but
Right.
we got to get you in the system first. So you're not showing up to the Yankees telling somebody you know better how to play shortstop. Go play shortstop like we know you can, and then if you want to do things your way later, we'll figure that out.
I love it. I love it. So,
So,
it sounds like a very different, process now after the inflection part, right? You're
yeah,
adding people to a known process, a known system. You've
yeah,
got very specific metrics, very clear. I love the
very clear.
clarity on that, right? And you've got them, out there and executing with a team, a strong team culture of
Yeah,
performance. When you
yeah,
build a team on metrics, on goals that are that clear, you're
yeah,
building a high performing culture, right?
correct.
Not just a friendly, everyone's nice to each other. No. It's we're not and right. It's
Yeah,
nice to each other and we perform at the highest level. It's not either
yeah,
or. I think a
yeah,
lot of agents get trapped in that. They either want to
yeah.
be nice with people
Oh no, no,
or
no.
they want to, have a really high standard with them. And I
Yeah,
go, it's not one or the other. I want
yeah.
high performers that contribute to the
Right,
culture. Like
right,
both. It's
right.
both, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
don't get caught in that trap that it's one or the other. We're either going to we're going to be friendly and nice, or we're going to be super high performing. It's
yeah. Of
not. It's a false. Was it false choice? Right? False
course. So,
dichotomy.
yeah,
It's not.
yeah,
It's not real.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
you're choosing the wrong path. So
yeah,
Shane, you inflection point. You were trending towards two times ROI with
yeah,
you burned out,
yeah,
barely worth the squeeze. What
yeah,
were the results once you guys made that change? And just to give people context, your guys are run like a corporation. You have
yeah.
quarterly
Oh,
reports. You got to
oh yeah,
report on ROI. You got to report
yeah,
on results.
yeah,
That's corporate, right? That's how
yeah,
corporations run. So
yeah, yeah,
you guys are run like it makes sense that that you
yeah,
guys are run by Wharton MBA because
yeah.
that's how exactly how corporations
Yeah,
report their
and,
results.
and our
What have been
entire
the results?
company's well, and I'll give you, and just to that point, we run off the entrepreneurial operating system, the EOS system. So yeah, I mean, I just had a Friday 8-hour course, refresher for the EOS. So yes, it's quarterlies, it's one-on-ones, it's a very detailed and tracked system. I have to meet with every ISA, I mean, there's all kinds of that. But anyway, scale. So yeah, it was 2 times ROI was always the goal, and I maintained that almost from the beginning on my own back, right? Because
Yeah,
I'm just doing
yeah,
my
you.
job. Yeah, yeah. So then it was so we finished. I gave you these numbers. So we finished 2025 with 42 and a half times ROI.
Yeah. So I want to repeat that to people. So
40
42 and a half
times
times for
ROI.
every dollar you spent on this leads department, the
Yeah,
company got 42.50 back for every dollar
that
spent.
includes my salary and bonuses.
Wow.
So that includes the entire department. If there was
Wow.
a penny spent on this department, we ended at 42 and a half times ROI.
Wow.
Our GCI was equivalent to about $14.8 million on our appointments. So
Wow.
we would have been the number five agent in the company,
Yeah.
or number
That
five.
is nuts. That is
Yeah,
nuts. So 14, over 14 million in GCI generated
yeah,
is there's whole teams that don't generate that, entire agent organizations that don't generate
Right.
that, right? In the millions in GCI. So that was to really grab my head around that, like that you shifted the time, the effort, the manpower into
Right.
these higher performing lead sources, higher converting lead sources, and it sounds
Right.
like you even got more of them. Like once you
Yeah.
like you figure something out, like hey, how
Yeah.
do we get
Yeah.
more? How do we plug more people into this?
Right.
And you held the line. You kept the standard in place. You made
Right.
as you scaled profitably. You
Yep.
scaled high performing on these really, really, really good lead sources, and you guys
Yep.
made it even better. It sounds like.
Yeah, and I mean, we talk about that is making sure profitability. When you get a new job, you get a new thing. You sometimes have a honeymoon phase, right? I mean, my honeymoon phase was about 5 or 6 months when I first got here, and I burned that up into 5 or 6 months, right? I had no more honeymoon phase. There was nobody going to have a conversation about, we're going to give you another 3 months to get to profitability or whatever.
Yeah,
And to be honest, we were profitable the second month, so
yeah,
it wasn't that big of an issue. But what I talk about is because again we track everything, and so we have what we call Pepin dollars, which is the dollars to the bottom line. It would be the equivalent of guess kind of operating net.
yeah,
So that is something we track a lot. And in those early phases, we'd have a couple of weeks. I'd get a message if we had 3 weeks in a row with no Pepin dollars
yeah. Oh
a
yeah,
report. I'd be
100%.
like, but I mean, again, we did the DAs for last week alone on closings. It was a little over $32,000 in
Oh
Pepin
wow.
dollars.
I mean, yeah, company dollar, not GCI,
Company
company
dollars. Yeah.
dollar, company like
Company
hitting the
dollars.
bottom line, right? Yeah,
Our appointments led to this much income.
yeah.
Uh,
That's a good week. I'd say that. I'd say it's
yeah.
a pretty good week. Not
And
bad.
we haven't had a zero in, 7 months. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I love it. So Shane, I think you're laying out here a crazy effective kind of a plan. If you were talking to other like large teams, organizations that spend, because this starts with like marketing spend. Like, these leads aren't
Yeah.
free, right? You
Yep.
got you
Yep.
got to spend the money to generate the opportunity. Then you have to have the system to convert it and hand it off to agents. If you were
Right.
talking to someone like in a role like yours, what are the recommendations? Like, and say, hey, I want some of that 42x return, Shane. I want to, be a profit center for my team. Because in some companies, this is not a secret. Some ISA departments are cost centers. They see them as a cost center. Like, oh
Yeah.
man, this is how do we cut back on this? Can we do it with more one? Can we have it like I don't want any in-house people. They're always looking to cut down a cost
Yeah.
center, right? Like you
Yeah.
guys, it sounds like you guys are a profit center. Like
Yeah.
every dollar spent in spits out, $42 is not bad.
Yeah.
So
We
what
make
would
this
you say
company
to
money.
someone?
That's for sure.
100%,
Yeah.
100%. What would you say to someone that's saying, "Hey, I want some of that 42x return"? Shane, what would you recommend me do to really get crazy home runs like that?
I don't ever want to give false humility. I'm a Marine. I don't have humility, but I do want to be clear that I didn't expect to end the year at 42
Okay,
times. So I didn't expect that. That was quite a surprise. I just had my head down and we were just going. I think the biggest thing I would say, Gustavo, is I would ask almost what I asked for, when I had that kind of watershed moment was, what's the purpose of this thing? Why do you want an ISA? If you're like if it were me in the field running and gunning again, I would have a personal assistant, but I wouldn't have an ISA. I don't want anybody calling for me. I'll generate my own pipeline.
yeah,
So I don't want to take that away from because I know a lot of your team or a lot of clients are single agents, and they're
yeah,
looking to scale. Then that
correct.
would be the first question. What are you looking to scale? Like why? What is it you're scaling? And I know and that was something I struggled with early on. I know a lot of the feedback I got early on was, well, you're just wanting more people dialing numbers so that you have more opportunities to talk to people. And for me, that didn't ultimately make sense.
Hmm.
What I needed first was this absolute waterfall, Niagara Falls volume of leads that were coming in. Our initial problem, it probably wasn't most brokerages' initial problem. We had too many leads and weren't converting. So we had a
Got it.
conversion problem.
Got it.
We were paying a lot of money, but again, and we were still profitable. That's the weird thing.
I
We're
know.
still profitable on all
In
the
spite
leads
of,
across the board.
yeah,
but three might be profitable carrying the rest of the six, you
True.
seven, you know?
True.
So it was, wait a minute, why would I build this thing over here that is trying to find new leads initially, cold
Yeah.
calling,
Correct.
versus I've got all these inbounds. Let's convert those at scale. And then we'll work on at now it'll become what do we add? And that's where we are now. Our last three hires have been straight cold callers. Like
Mm.
you're going after expired, you're going after for sale by owners, you're going after circle prospecting. You know, we just opened up three new avenues through divorce leads, probate, and well,
I
two
got
for
you.
now. But
Yeah, it's true.
so
And
I
it's a really
think
good
that's
point.
yeah. So what do you want the person to do? What is their role? Is it because you don't want to be on the phone anymore? I don't know. So you have better insight in that than I
Yeah.
do. So I think that would be my first question if I were starting this over again. I didn't know what I didn't know, so
Correct.
I stumbled through the darkness and found success. I don't know how
Uh,
else to say.
yeah, I totally understand that. I would say, kind of adding on there, I would say the situation that I want to see an ISA in, it's going to be a home run,
Yeah,
is when the owner, the team leader, or the main agent has a lead generation system and lead conversion system, and they're plugging in leverage to that system, right?
yeah.
That is a situation where 9 times out of 10, they're going to be successful and they're going to hit some home runs like off the
Yeah,
bat because they're going into something that works.
yeah.
Where agents struggle is where they put an ISA into a system that they're not sure works, right? Because either they haven't
Well,
closed deals on
frankly,
their
it
own
doesn't
themselves.
work. Let's be.
Yeah,
I mean, you're being
let
super
I mean,
nice.
for
Yeah,
sure. I'm being super nice. It's
it
it's
doesn't
a
work.
crap. It's like you're hoping for you're hoping and praying, and praying is not. I mean, no disrespect. That's not
No,
a
no.
strategy, right? Not a
Yeah,
strategy, right?
yeah.
You're hoping and praying. Hopes and prayers are not a strategy
No.
for business, right?
Yeah,
So you're hoping and praying this is going to work out,
right.
and it's just very different when you have, like you said, what is this person going to do? Like what?
Right.
And that sounds like a really silly question, Shane. It is the question. That's the game. Like that's
It is.
the game,
Well, and
right?
here's where it translates. If I asked you if you're a brand new agent or you're a new, let's say you're a veteran agent doing 5 years of sales, and you've got, you're a successful for you. You're successful. It's generational. Again, your why of why you're in real estate is important too. You're 3 years in, you're 5 years in. You've kind of figured out how to do the single agent thing, and you have made, sometimes generationally changing money. You're in most respects successful.
Yeah,
Now you want to scale. That's a different thing.
it is.
So I would ask you first, and I have a dear friend that opened up a barbecue restaurant. And he went very successful locally. I mean, God, everybody loves his barbecue, and had a wonderful restaurant. Then it was time for restaurant number two. And guess what? Now you've got to figure out systems.
Yeah.
All right. And now
Because
that's when he
if it
called
works,
me and like, let's
yeah,
have this conversation. Yeah.
if it only works when the owner's there, like
Yeah.
you
It's
now you
not a
have a
system.
problem.
Yeah.
Now you have
Yeah.
a problem,
Well,
right? Like
so I
location
would
number
ask
two.
that new agent, how do you move from a lead to a closing?
Yeah,
Have you defined that process? And if you have not, I don't know where an ISA fits.
yeah. There you go.
Honestly, I
As
mean,
easy as
I,
that.
I don't. Again, I'm never here to take money from you and cost you clients. But I think the first thing you have to do, if you're moving past you making the phone calls, you prospecting, again, prospecting, presenting, and closing, if you're going to bring somebody into prospect, how does that feed this pipeline? How does that work in this system?
Yeah,
And like you said, I would suspect that a majority of people thinking about this have not defined that system yet.
yeah. 100%.
They just
I,
do it naturally for them, but they have
or
no.
they might maybe you see some of my testimonials and go, oh, all I need is the ISA. They go, no, you missed the point. Like all of these home runs, whether we're talking about Shane, you or Marlene or Tucker or all these people we talked to,
Yeah,
there's a common thread.
yeah,
They were closing deals before the ISA with that same lead source. Let me be
yeah.
clear with that, because
But
people
that's
you can't afford an ISA if you're not closing deals. Everyone's
yeah,
closing deals, but you're
yeah,
plugging in the ISA to a system works.
yeah,
Can convert. Can convert deals, and you're adding leverage to a system that already works. I agree with you. I got 100%. I think that's the
right.
game, and that's just again. If it sounds too simple that it's not important, you're not understanding it.
Yeah. It's
Listen to that.
simple. It's just not easy.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
big difference.
100%.
It's simple. It's just not easy.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. So I think that's the
Yep.
key takeaway right there, right? It's just
Yeah.
because you had a moment there yourself. You had an initial thesis, an initial
100%.
strategy,
Yeah.
and then that was. I mean, I don't want to say it wasn't working. It just wasn't worth the effort you were putting into it,
Yeah.
and then
We
you changed
could
the
have.
strategy.
Yeah. We could have stayed there, but yeah. And I have higher expectations of myself and things that I do and build. So
100%.
it was never gonna. That system at that time, the way it was built, was never going to satisfy my needs, what I
100%.
wanted. And so, yeah, and I understand, getting frustrated, but I think an important time. And Alonzo, my new coach that you guys have given me, who is amazing and phenomenal. But what I've learned in the process of that is I'm not Power ISA, I'm not an ISA expert, but I'm a Pepin expert. And
Yeah,
so, even though Alonzo may have a great deal of insight and coaching ability, I still have to translate that into how it works in my building. And I'll tell you exactly how this works. We just had this kind of friction point that finally Alonzo and I aligned on. And
uh-huh.
I said, hey, I like you, so I want to make sure that we're not in some kind of I don't want you to quit or be angry or me have to fire you. Like, I don't want to get angry here. So let's have a
Yeah,
conversation. And it just took that moment again. And I think that's escalating trust first, right?
yeah,
I
100%.
trusted Alonzo, so I wanted to have a direct conversation. But he kept trying to push the ISAs to have direct conversations with our agents.
Mm,
And now I said, no, stop. Like, I finally, agents, why are you contacting an agent, or the ISA? Why are you contacting the agent? Anyway, come to find out, it was just a misalignment because Alonso's used to how it is with everyone else. But
got it.
here, these leads are ours. They're
Got it.
Pepin's leads. The agents don't own the leads. Shane owns them in essence.
Yeah,
I'm responsible for the management of them. So we don't. The ISA department is a set aside. It does not communicate directly with the agents. We
gotcha.
filter it through now Ellie, but we have a filter because agents can be prima donnas. I was one, and
Yeah.
very quickly they'll try to run over the system. They'll try to make it their
Yes.
system, right? And we started seeing friction. Started getting agents complaining to me. I didn't like how Brandon responded to me, and well, Brandon shouldn't be responding to you. Why are you talking to Brandon, right? And so
100%.
once I got that aligned with, but anyway, the point of all that is I got it aligned with Alonzo. That hey, we don't work that way. We own all the leads. The agents have very little say other than accepting the leads and converting the leads. We don't have those conversations, so it isn't an ISA talking to an agent. Because if you do that, I promise you, if you do that, especially I know my team of agents, they'll run through our system won't look the same 3 months from now.
100%. Yeah, yeah. And the agents have their priorities. Agents have
Yeah, they do.
everything's urgent.
I love them
Everything,
to death. Yep. I'm the only
they're
one alive on earth right now, other than me and my client. Right?
100%, right? And I get that. So but if you're going to rely on that to scale, it's not going to work. Like
It
that
doesn't.
does it doesn't scale. It doesn't
But it
scale
was
well.
Alonzo just looked at me and he's immediately, I love your team, because he goes, I get it. I'm so sorry. I thought it was that way. You're right. It's not that way.
Yeah,
I will 100% support and be building the coaching towards what you're saying now.
100%.
And I think it
Because
was kind of
this is scale.
understanding that.
Yeah,
And I would
totally.
say this as a closing. I know you need to get us going, but I think what I learned too with Power ISA, I was looking for somebody to save me, and I had to remind myself of back to the Marines. No one's coming to save you.
100%.
Like, I had to you know what I mean by that, Gustavo. You guys are experts in your field,
Yeah,
but I have this other thing over here that I'm responsible for, and I'm responsible for building this thing. Where we can align, we're going to do that. But and I would say this to the new agents that come on board with you. If you're expecting Gustavo to fix all your problems, it ain't going to work. Not that Gustavo's not capable, but because Gustavo and his organization are not your organization.
yeah. We're never going to know your business as well
You
as
know what I
you.
mean by that? Am I saying that? I don't want to be out of line, but that was something I had to identify early on, because I think I told you my confession was I didn't know how to build an ISA, so I completely relied on my first coach, who
Yeah,
was happy to take me in this complete direction. And I get it, because that's how it's built. but it was the wrong direction for my team, my company.
For Pepin. That wasn't the highest and best use of an ISA team for your organization, right?
Exactly.
And no one's gonna know. And and again, I would love to take credit for those results, Shane. This is you, right? This is the strategy. This is the direction. We helped you execute, but the strategy 100% came from you, and you pointed us in the right direction. Hey, we tried that, and not great. 2x ROI, 3x, it's all right, but it's not worth the squeeze. This 40x ROI with a better team, that is the way to go. Like that is the home run, right? 100%. Love it, Shane. Thank you so much, man. I know how busy you are. I appreciate you. Thanks for jumping in and sharing with the audience, man. Thank you so much. And I'll see you on the next one. Let's see. Let's see what 26 looks like.
Oh yeah. 2026 is going to be groundbreaking. Appreciate you, buddy.
Awesome. Thanks. Bye.